is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, the book club covering The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. In this book, there is a giant spore taking over the brains of humans. It's super gross. This is a really neat take on being a zombie. Also, there's a little girl. Welcome to Unspoiled.
She is sharing none of her gifts.
No, this little... Okay, so it's kind of funny because, like, the little girl character is completely badass and awesome. But yeah. I'm just so distracted by what a great idea having a fungal, like, spore tree thing is for just kind of taking everything to the next level of, like, ickiness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just having a bunch of rotting, viral-ridden corpses wandering around. That's been done, and, you know, it's very, like, it's one of those threats that only feels like it's scary some of the time because it's really easy to be safe from it, like, if you just take a lot of precautions. And right. I feel like the way that this is presented just makes it feel so much more... I don't even want to say that it's more threatening. It just, there's like that body horror element of like this thing growing up out of the bodies in the street. And,
I love that.
You know, like it just feels so much more alien, I guess, is really what it is. Because fungal, like, I don't feel like there's been like fungus horror done in excess. Really, has there?
You know, I'd never heard of this concept before. I have heard apparently the video game The Last of Us,
okay,
which I have not played, but is apparently phenomenal, is a zombie video game that also involves fungus zombies. That's sort of how the plague spread.
Okay.
I haven't seen a lot of it though outside of that. No, it's not something that we see a lot of, other than people will get like fungal infections all the time. That's like some STDs. That's like you know, foot fungus and just stuff. It's just gross, icky stuff always.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah.
So take it out to this extreme, and it's a thing that's real. Like I said, the thing they talk about with the ants is, you know, that's a real life thing. And I remember the first time I heard about it, I said, "Wow, that's really, really insane." That a fungus will take over this living thing, carve out the inside of its head, and then direct the body to the best place in the nearest vicinity to unleash its spores so it can spread. Like, that's fucking creepy. And
I just like, it's so unthinking is what's so creepy about it, is that it's able to take us over and do things that only benefit itself, but it doesn't actually have a thinking mind. It's not a goal that there's like a creature that's aiming to take over the world and it's like, ha. It's just, no, this is just nature. This is just, you know, how it's, and there's a theory that they kind of brush up against, that somebody engineered this so that it would be attacking human beings. I don't know if you caught that in the beginning.
I don't know that I did, to be honest.
Yeah, because they are like, you know, the evolution of this thing going from ants to people does seem pretty sudden. So there is a good chance that somebody was messing with it and maybe released it thinking that they could keep it contained, and they could not. Or they released it by accident or something like that, because the evolution of it just seems so unlikely to have happened this quickly. So in that respect, that's partially probably our fault. But it is just the whole idea of it being something that just is nature can be a bitch, man.
Yeah. Well, and that idea is also, that is so totally plausible.
Yep.
As a, you know, we just off mic, we're talking about computer viruses, and I read somewhere at some point that some of the worst computer viruses that are out there right now, they were all things that were engineered by the U.S. government. And they've sort of admitted it since, like, yeah, that one kind of got away from us. Sorry. And now they're just running rampant and fucking up people's computers.
I cannot imagine having the kind of power where you just, like, you're able to create something like that, and then you just fucking, like, toss it out the window like it's nothing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like tossing a lit cigarette as you're passing, like, a dry brush and just being like, oops. But except that it's not, it's like a series of houses and you just threw a live flamethrower out the window. You know?
Yeah.
It's just, come on. I just always want to think that people who have a certain level of power have a much more, like, sense of a responsibility than they oftentimes seem to have. Probably because it was so early on, they maybe didn't even realize the damage that they could do. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, or at the very least, their sense of values or their sense of what's an acceptable loss or whatever, it's so incredibly skewed by the things that they see.
Yeah.
That the idea of, well, yeah, that sucks for everybody, but it's just a computer virus.
Right.
Or, yeah, well, you know, that was awful that we had to go send somebody in to go murder that guy in a back alley, but it needed to be done. And I am totally content never getting to a point in my life where I have that level of gray in everything.
Yeah, no thank you.
Yeah. Do we need to say hi on the book club? I don't know. I haven't done this very often.
We didn't. Sorry, we just launched into it because I'm super into this book. Hi, everybody. I'm Natasha.
And I'm Alan. So that's out of the way.
Yeah. So guys, if you haven't heard Alan before, he is my co-host on Justified, and he also was my co-host for Hannibal and the first season of True Detective. So, but yeah, thanks, Alan, for joining me on doing this. We weren't sure if you were going to be able to make it for this book, but it worked out. So
yeah. No, absolutely. I was really thrilled to do it. I was super happy when it popped up on the list of stuff you were going to cover this year. My fiance and I found this book 2.5 years ago-ish at random at a bookstore, and the cover caught her eye, and we read the little bits, all the praise on it, and without seeing anything else, we just picked it up and started to read it and went like, holy crap, what is this book?
Yeah, I could see that when you're not sure what the hell this is.
Yeah. So I was thrilled to get the chance to talk about it with you tonight.
Yeah, this book I think was either number one or a very close second in terms of votes on the patrons group, because I put up a list of like a bunch of different books and just kind of I chose outright I think 3 books for the year that I just really wanted to read, and then the other 9 I let everybody vote on, and this one, like, as soon as I posted it, people were like, oh my God, yes! So now I get it. But yeah, so this book, what?
Yeah, this book is, I think one of the things I like so much about this book is the plot is almost secondary to the characters that the author creates. I think the plot is fine, but it's almost a shoestring plot to get you from place to place so these characters can interact with one another in different settings. Mm-hmm. And you can watch Melanie grow and change as her relationship with the world, as she gets more and more exposure to life outside of this horrifying little bunker where she's lived her whole life.
And I'm sure I'm not alone in imagining 11 as Melanie pretty much the whole time. Right? Because she finally, she even gets her head shaved finally at one point. So I was just like, well, that does it.
I think that's fair. I will say, did you get the chance to watch the movie?
No, I didn't. I knew I was thinking, like, I feel like there was something else I said I'd do before I forgot the movie, but I should watch that with Owen because I don't know that he'll ever get around to doing the book.
Yeah. The movie is, I think it's streaming on Amazon Prime, but I could be wrong. In the movie, they switch around. Well, Melanie is black in the movie, and Miss Justineau is white, whereas in the book, they, Melanie is, they describe her like a porcelain doll, and Miss Justineau is black. And so it's totally skewed my vision of the characters in my head.
That kind of bums me out, actually, because I liked the fact that, like, they had a little white girl being this vicious, murdering, like, you know what I mean? And had this civilizing influence be a black woman. And then they like went and kind of undid that in the movie. And that bums me out a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I will tell you the little girl in the movie is fantastic.
All right. Have we seen her before? Is she somebody that was familiar?
Not that I can tell. I don't see anything else that she's done. I think one or two other things that she's been in, but I don't recognize her from anything, and I don't see that she has much of a resume yet.
Okay.
But she's excellent. Gemma Arterton, her is Miss Justineau.
Okay.
And Glenn Close is the doctor, Dr. Caldwell.
Oh.
And
Oh, that is really good casting. Glenn Close is terrifying, like, anyway. Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
So I think the movie's not quite as good because you can't get inside the characters' heads, and they make one or two plot changes. But yeah, it's a really interesting, it's still a really interesting book. And the little girl is fantastic, and she's totally taken over my vision of Melanie in my head because I just think she's captivating in the movie.
Right on. So yeah, this book starts off, you don't know, like, I had seen just something in passing about how, oh, this little girl is more than what she seems, and she says, I won't bite, but nobody laughs. And I was like, okay, so she's like kind of a zombie-ish kind of thing? And that was all I knew going into it. And
nice.
It starts off with her getting put into her chair where she's strapped down and rolled into a classroom with a bunch of other kids who are also strapped down. And what's really disturbing about it is how mundane it is when she discusses it or talks about it in her head. Like, it's just, this is how it is, and I obey them when they tell me to do it, and it's fine. What's the big deal? Like, there's not even a moment of her being like, this isn't right.
Right, the casual nature of the way she accepts everything. That there's always two guards that come in, and there's one that ties my straps together while the other one points the gun at me. Mm-hmm. And we're going to go to class today, and we might learn about Greek myths, or we might learn about the calculus. And the calculus is okay. I can do it when there's only 3 variables, but once we get into the 4th variable, I'm still figuring those out.
Right.
And she's so matter of fact about it that you quickly start to realize, it's immediately apparent that something is wrong, but just what a bizarre situation this is.
The worst one
I love the way it
is definitely when she's like, and then there was Sunday, which I hated, where we'd get rolled into the showers and sprayed with some kind of chemical that stung, and then they'd give us our bowl of grubs, and then we would eat. And it's just, I read that, and I was like, it was one of those things where I recognized what this writer was doing as it was happening, like that he was going to pack this horrifying punch with no commentary at all. And even though I knew it was coming, I did not feel like manipulated. I wasn't even mad about it. I was just like, yeah, that's just as horrifying as I expected, even though I knew it was going to be there. That's pretty awful. Because there are definitely times where there's like, they say something in this really matter-of-fact way with a period at the end. And you can tell that they're trying to be like a little bit shocking. And you're just like, oh, God, I guess. But this actually worked.
Yeah, well, I love it because they sandwich all of that stuff in between really common, recognizable things. When Melanie talks about her classroom and the different teachers and the ones that she likes and the ones that she hates, and Miss Justineau and just the absolute adoration that she has in her tone when she talks about her.
Yeah.
We've all had that. There's the teachers you can't stand and the ones that are just kind of whatever. And there's the one who, keeps a bottle of whiskey in the bottom drawer of his desk. Mm-hmm. And then there's the teacher that you're just head over heels for, not like in a crush way, but just like, this teacher's amazing and I cannot get enough of them and I can't stop talking about them.
Yep.
And I love that they're able to, again, just to make her so relatable and to do all those things that you recognize the emotion. You also recognize how young she is and how much she doesn't understand that this situation is weird and wrong.
Yeah, and it's kind of surprising that she doesn't understand, considering like the level of knowledge that she has about history and just in general, like the world before, mythology, all these things. It never really seems to occur to her why they're being treated the way that they are as children. The one thing that we really hear from her perspective about like what, like her questioning, not even questioning, but like outlining the world today is just, oh, there are hungries outside, but there's a fence so that we're safe here and they can't get in. And that's the only thing that really like points to she understands the world is different now than the things that she's read about. But there isn't ever a question as to why they need to be strapped down or why, like, for example, when she finally gets hungry and she realizes like, oh, this is what they were talking about when they talk about being hungry. It's like she just accepts, well, the world's different and this is how this is. And there's a part of me that is kind of like, wouldn't she wonder about that? But kids don't, though. Like, I remember a lot of things that when I look back at it, I'm like, why didn't I like just kind of question that at all? But you don't.
Yeah, every child she knows is treated exactly the same way. Every single one. So this is just the way it is. We've talked before about in other shows and whatnot. You know, I took a summer vacation with my family every single year, and I assumed that that's what everybody did because that's what I did for as far back as I could remember. And then I went off to college. It took me that long to suddenly realize, like, oh, no. Okay, that was actually something my parents were able to do for me that not everybody gets the opportunity to. Yep. And this is just a very extreme version of that. But yeah, she understands a lot of things conceptually. And as she gets these new experiences, I've mentioned to you the book series and the TV show, The Expanse, before.
The Expanse. I don't remember that. No.
Yeah. Okay. It's a sci-fi book series. I'm not done with it. I'm about halfway through, but it's a TV show on sci-fi as well. Really, really good. But it's concerns characters in the not the far future, but not the near future either. We've expanded out far enough where we're like mining on asteroid belts and things like that. And it concerns characters on Earth, on Mars, and on the asteroid belt. And the first time that one of the characters from Mars, who's been there her entire life, goes to Earth and she steps outside and she's understood conceptually the idea of being outside. But the first time she actually leaves a building and sees the sky and just how big everything is outside of the little stations and, you know, habitrails that everybody lives on in Mars, she freaks out. And it's apparently very, very common for people who've never actually encountered the sky before.
Yeah, and I can imagine that being bananas. God.
Yeah, it's a really well done scene. And I think Melanie has a lot of those things as she slowly starts to experience more and more things and has to assign names to them almost because nobody wants to tell her anything. Because God forbid she figures out what she is. Right. Because they're not even sure themselves.
Sorry, guys, I'm coughing tonight. I don't know why. Yeah, there's just something really fascinating, I think, about the idea of a kid that grew up, like, they touch on this with Gallagher also. Somebody who did not know the world before it fell.
Yeah. Because it's been like 20 years or so. It's been a while. There's a whole generation growing up that, like Gallagher, doesn't understand the concept of money, of paper money.
Yeah. They find a car at one point that's abandoned and has a bunch of money in the back, and they're just kind of laughing at the optimism of whoever decided to bring that with them because they thought maybe eventually it'll still be worth something. I don't know. And they're just looking at it like, oh God. And I think they like build a fire with, don't they like take some of it to like do something with it?
Oh yeah. They do spend a little bit of time just sort of enjoying the fact that they're rich in a world where nobody cares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is she's, this hungry kind of, what do we want to call her? I feel like because the story doesn't establish a name for it, which is fine.
No, Caldwell calls her test subject number 1.
But I like the category, feral, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'd assign that to the kids they find in London at the end, but um,
I'm trying to
I don't
think
know.
of like, uh, yeah, I can't. But
Hungarette,
what's that?
Hungarette.
Hungarette. She's a hungry light.
Yes, diet hunger.
But her and these kids, not knowing anything else, just don't question anything that they're down there. And Gallagher, like, grew up with this fucked up sounding family that were just horribly abusive alcoholics. And when he, like, comes across this untouched convenience store filled with porn magazines, he's just, like, absolutely, like, flabbergasted and realizes that if he had found these while they were still at the base, he would have been, like, rich, basically. Which is just such a crazy thing to me that somebody charged people to look at this, like, and kept it under lock and key. That's just super funny to me. I'm surprised that nobody was like borrowing it and then coming out, and then he'd go in and be like, "Wait, there's a page miss. Hey!" And people just like running off with pages of it.
World before the internet. If you're a boy in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, there was always somebody who had a stash of pornos, or somebody who had a tape and they'll let you see it for $3 or whatever. That was a thing. That was a thing. But yeah, he represents this whole other world that is totally divorced from everybody that he's with, despite the fact that he is, in theory, he's nominally in charge after Parks,
right?
But he isn't in charge of. He's barely in charge of himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the guy who's like second in command but doesn't like it, which is a rare thing. Usually second in command is written as always like kind of wanting to be the commander and being resentful somehow, but he's more like, oh, I just really hope nothing happens to Sarge because I can't deal with that, which I kind of respect, honestly.
I appreciated that there's, he is somebody who is just, we have 3 very strong characters that are, with us on this journey. And I like that we have somebody who is he's just afraid of everything. And that's eventually what leads to his freak out at the end. The reason he runs away from everybody is not because of, oh, we're going to get eaten by hungries, oh, we're running out of E-blocker, oh, or whatever, that he thinks they're going to make it back home. And he's going to have to deal with being home again. That is finally kind of what breaks him and sends him running.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of, because I was just thinking, I mean, is it supposed to be that the people that he came from were junkers?
I don't think that they were junkers. I just think that they were kind of awful people, and it was this life that he never fit into in any real way. He said, the first time that he slept with a girl, he got an STD. He's this guy. He just has this life that.
Because his freak out, I thought, was like because he heard that there was a 50-something strong group of junkers that was coming at them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that when she tells that lie, that is what sort of sets his mind running. Right. But I think even the idea that they've escaped all these hungries, they escaped this disaster at the compound, they made it through the city, and even if they escape the junkers, he's still got to go home.
Okay. Huh.
And
yeah, I guess so. I didn't really think about that.
And that was something that I feel like I zeroed in on this time that I didn't recognize the first time I read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just find him to be a really interesting character he's just traumatized from all angles.
Yeah, he was written in a really sweet way where it felt like the author was really towing that line of like, listen, he's a little bit pathetic and he's had really bad luck, but he's a decent person, and he's like, he could easily have just been played for like pathos and kind of a like the butt of jokes and just the butt, basically. And we strayed towards that here and there, and then we'd pull back after that was done, and the writer would be like, yeah, but reminder, he's still like a nice guy. And I just thought that was really well done. Like, it's so tricky, I think, writing somebody who comes across like that without making them feel like someone you're just disdainful of or have like contempt for,
Yeah.
He's somebody that I could definitely see like working with and being frustrated by, but also kind of being like, yeah, but I like working with Gallagher. Like, he takes his job seriously, even though he sometimes just doesn't have logic at all.
Yeah, I definitely have met those people.
Right? Yeah, completely.
So, we haven't talked a lot about the other three main characters of the book. So, let's start with Miss Justineau. What do you think of her?
She is she's full of surprises. Because, of course, you see her for the first time from Melanie's point of view, and you're like, oh, sweet school teacher. And then the first time that she interacts with another adult, she's like, fuck you, Eddie. And I'm like, oh, what's up, Miss Justineau? Okay. And then after that, she just keeps on being like, fuck you to a variety of people. Like, she is just so much more unafraid isn't even the word, because you know she's afraid. She just doesn't let that bother her. It's like she is more, I can't think of the word that I want. Self-possessed, I guess? Aware?
Okay. What I was, did your book have the little section at the end with like the interview with the author and all that stuff?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, did you get a chance to read that?
Yes, I did.
I liked the little bit where he's talking about his creating her. And he said, I want Miss Justineau to be a believable figure, not a plaster saint. It would have been easy to write her as perfect, but then why would she be? In that situation at that time, the miracle is that she's kept any kind of emotional openness at all. Mm-hmm. But I had to play those early scenes so that she was surprising herself. It's not like she decided she had to make a stand.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing I think that I liked was that it's continually a question on what she's going to do. There's never a moment that I'm like, oh, Miss Justineau's a good person and we know how she's going to handle this. Because sometimes she would surprise me and she'd do something that I was like, wait, why are you? And then I'd realize like what I thought was the right choice, or not even the right choice, but what I expected her to think was the better choice was not what she was thinking at that time. And sometimes that was because she has like her and all the other characters have lived in this world for longer, and so they make decisions based on the knowledge that they have already that I didn't even have as a reader yet in a lot of places. So yeah, she always seems to make decisions in favor of this surrogate child. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, understanding, even as she's making the decision, as much as, I have a relationship with this child, she is an actual monster who will actually eat me. Yeah. Yep. And, and her clashing with Dr. Caldwell constantly, and Caldwell asks her early on in the book, is this decision really more important than me researching this and potentially coming up with something that is going to help us survive? Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of question that I'm really like, because I think it's a really important question, but at the same time, I would find it to be a much more important question if it were anybody but Dr. Caldwell asking it, because it feels so much like she just hasn't been making any progress, and that she just is somebody who needs to be keeping herself busy trying to find a cure more than she's actually interested in finding a cure. It's like she needs a sense of purpose to not completely give up on her life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's maybe a good way to say that. I think that she is so she has this past of being passed over and essentially being told, like, being built up to be somebody who is going to save the world, and then she missed. And she didn't even miss by a little bit. She didn't even get the alternate spots on this mission. And so she's kept busy with this work. And she's almost, I feel like, at the point of, excuse me. Sorry.
That's okay. I've been coughing all night, so.
Have you, she's almost kind of like brute forcing the problem at this point. I don't know if you're familiar with that term. It's where since you have a puzzle and you don't know how to solve it, and so you are just going down the line and trying every single little alternate option you possibly can, just because eventually one of them is going to work.
Right.
She is determined past the point of reasoning about it. She's just going to keep doing things until something finally works. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, and it's like it's really frustrating when she actually gets the answer that she wants. She has this like kind of, I don't want to say smugness, although that's probably correct, but she definitely feels like, oh, see, everybody passed me up, but I figured it out. But she also has just admitted that there's no way they could have come to the conclusion that she has because they didn't have samples that were as advanced with this fungus as she has access to. So, like, her conclusions were impossible to draw at the time that they were actually initiating these investigations in the first place. So she wants to like take credit for it, but she also somewhere in her brain kind of knows that she doesn't really get the credit, but she's like, yeah, but nobody else will, think about that. I could just present it as being me being brilliant.
Well, and even at the very end of the book, her last chapter, her death scene, is she is comforted by the fact that she's figured this out, and she gets to tell somebody that she figured it out.
Yeah.
And as she's dying, she can sit there and just tell Melanie everything that she learned, and that's enough for her at the end to just say like, "See, I figured it out, and now someone knows I figured it out, and I can die."
Yeah, it was a pretty satisfying end, honestly, because I don't know that I was trying to think as I was reading what I wanted to have happen to her, just like. What would feel, because for example, Rashawn and I were talking about what winds up happening to Gilderoy Lockhart in Harry Potter and how it's not super satisfying because it feels like he will never really know that he deserved to be punished. He just went straight from being a lying shitbag to then being basically senile. And doesn't ever have a moment of really like understanding why what he did was fucked up or getting to be humiliated or anything like that, And so I was trying to think while I was reading, like, what would be pitch perfect for her in terms of feeling like she got like brought down to size a little bit. And it's not like this is really that because she still has this sort of feeling of power in her final moments. But it's so it does at times feel like that's a put on, that she's like kind of in denial a little bit mentally about how like poorly this whole situation has gone, and she's trying mentally to make the best of it and is kind of in denial about it. So that was, I think, was about as close as I was going to get to something that made me feel like, okay, yeah, good.
Yeah, she never really gets a comeuppance, but it essentially we're at the point where humanity is about to get its comeuppance, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm willing to go with it, and I do like the injury that they give her right at the start when everything goes to hell, and her hands are just useless throughout the book, and it is just, and they're just sort of like this festering, worsening open wound, which is kind of what she is on this group. She's always there. She's always obnoxious. She's preventing them from working together, although they don't really, they don't want to be together in the first place really anyway, but she is the one who's constantly there just poking people in the ribs and being a pain in the ass, which is exactly what her injury's doing.
Yeah.
And I like that symmetry.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like that injury, when it happened, I was pretty surprised that was going to, be something that she was dealing with so early on. I was just like, oh, okay, just right out of the gate. God damn. But then as I saw how that was like a constant obstacle to her doing this work that was so important to her, but how dogged she was about, this really fucking hurts. I'm also continuing to do it because fuck you. There's like almost a resentment towards her own body. Like, you don't get to tell me what to do, body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I feel absolutely. You on that, lady. I do.
So, what did you think of Sergeant Parks?
I love Sergeant Parks so much.
Yeah?
I think I might like him even better than Miss Justineau.
Okay.
I think Miss Justineau is... Oh, this is going to sound so snotty, but Miss Justineau at times was not thinking with her head. And then she would just throw so much attitude at him when he was really just making the best call. He really just was. And I appreciate that a lot of that she wound up being like, okay, yeah, in the end. But it didn't really like do away with my initial frustration that I had listening to her and being like, lady. And Park is like, I think has the biggest arc because he starts out treating Melanie just like Dr. Caldwell does. Yes. And then is the one that starts to really think and be like, oh, okay, maybe this kid's cool. And like, he never really lets his guard down around her. He's not an idiot, but goes very much from one end to the other and allows what he's seeing to inform his opinion, which is something that really bothers me about Dr. Caldwell, is that as a scientist, you're supposed to go off of your evidence. But right. She doesn't. She's faced with a group of kids that are clearly not acting the way that Hungries act in any way, shape, or form. They just don't, lady. But she continually acts like they're just the same thing. It's the same thing. They're clearly not. Why are you a scientist who is supposed to like walk into things objectively and use the sight in front of you and your smell and your sense and your touch and whatever? You're supposed to like go in unbiased and let whatever evidence you see inform your hypothesis. And she does the opposite of that, where she comes into it with a hypothesis, and the fact that the evidence is going directly against that has no impact on her at all. So in a lot of ways, I feel like Parks is more of a scientist than she is. Like, he's the one who allows himself to be like, oh, this isn't what I thought. Okay. Where she's just totally unwilling.
That is true. And at the very end, when Caldwell's sort of speechifying, she does say how her feelings about what the children are had changed over time as they started to run into the Hungries that are doing other things, and they are showing these little remnants of humanity. But she doesn't actually, we don't see her change at all. It's just everything she's doing, it's so intellectual and so far above the, meat level that I like that observation, because we don't see Caldwell's opinion on them really change, and we don't really see Justino's opinion on them change. Mm-hmm. Parks is the only one who, I saw him as the barometer for the group as to what Melanie's status in the group was, and how she became a more integral part of the group rather than just a hanger on.
Right.
But yeah, he really is the only one whose opinion seems to change as the book goes on.
And he's the one that, like, he's the one I think with the least investment either way, which might be why his opinion is so much less like fixed, because Justino is she's been working with these kids and sees them as kids, so she's invested emotionally in these individuals that she has gotten to know on that level. And Dr. Caldwell has only ever had them be science projects.
Right.
But she could have investigated, like, she asked Justino there for her input as far as behavior. But it does feel like, why though? Why did you ask? You clearly don't want to know. You're not listening. So I guess that could be part of it, is just Parks isn't particularly one way or the other really invested, so he's the more malleable of them.
And that even makes sense, because one of the things that I didn't pick up the first time I read it, but I noticed it this time, is he's in charge there at the base, as far as we can tell, but he isn't an officer. He's an NCO. He's just like, he's an enlisted guy who just showed up and rose through the ranks up to sergeant and wound up in charge in this fucked up post-apocalypse. And so he doesn't have, like, military officer candidate training to fall back on. He's just making this up as he goes along.
Yeah.
And so it actually makes sense that he is the one who is looking at the situation and responding based on the facts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I liked him the best because I just felt like he was the most logical at all times. He was looking at what was in front of him and being like, okay, this little girl might be a monster, but she also seems to be trying to keep control of herself, and she can definitely do a ton of stuff that we can't do, so let's take advantage of that. And it just... Thank you for being there, Parks, because I wish he had made it out. Like, I think it's fitting that he dies basically saving Justino, but I wish that he had made it out.
Yeah, although I do wonder, I'm just thinking about this right now. Now, Caldwell doesn't ever change her stance, and she does die feeling accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Justino doesn't ever change her stance, and at the end of the book, she is, she's a prisoner of her past. We didn't talk about it, but we find out she hit that kid. It was a hit and run,
right,
where she presumably killed a kid.
Yeah,
and she never figured out what to do about it before the world ended.
Mm-hmm.
So she's still living with that, and that's informing a lot of her behavior towards the kids. And by the end of the book, she is a literal prisoner of that. Parks is the one who's open to changing, but he's the one who gets to realize that he's essentially been betrayed.
Yeah.
At the end of the book.
Yeah, I almost
message that is.
I kind of love it though, because it's unclear, because he starts to change by the time she tells him what's really happening.
That's true.
I like to think that him understanding, finally starting to understand that Melanie is an actual person, makes him the one person that would have been able to come to terms with being party to basically ending humanity as we know it. Do you know what I mean? I don't think Justino could have dealt with it. And Dr. Caldwell would not. She values herself too much to have been able to. If she hadn't been injured and about to die anyway, I don't think that she would have. But I think he maybe is just he's the more middle road. Well, let me hear you out. And I think that what she says makes so much sense, that if he were able to really comprehend her in those moments, and you're not sure if he can, but maybe, I think that he would get it,
That's a really good point. So we skipped all the way to the end of the plot, but what did you think of the ending?
I loved the ending. That's my fave.
Me too.
It's so, I just really... That's the main problem for me with zombie stuff, is that it always just kind of is well, I guess the whole world is just zombies now, or it doesn't seem to end at all. There isn't a good resolution. It's just oh, we're safe now in this bunker, but the world is still going to continue completely decaying outside, or all of us have died or whatever. There's never been an ending that felt like it addressed what comes next, just right on a global scale. And this feels totally appropriate, and I think it's really smart that the author was well, I'm going to make this infection something that goes airborne, and airborne to the point that it can cross continents, which is crazy town. And I did not know that was even possible, but I guess it has to be possible because there are plant species that are on multiple continents, although one could say that's from Pangea. I don't really know about science. But yes, I thought that was really cool.
Definitely spores can travel like that. So yes, that's I really like it, and it really. Did you ever read I Am Legend, or are you familiar with I Am Legend?
I saw the movie. I never. It's a book,
that's a
right?
Yes, it's a novella by an author whose name I'm totally forgetting, and that's terrible because he's a grandfather of science fiction kind of guy. But yeah, the movie. You saw the Will Smith movie, I assume?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The theatrical version of that movie, they filmed an ending that is sort of similar to the ending in the book, and they decided test audiences didn't like it. They thought it was too smart and people wouldn't get it, and so they made them change it and make it into a giant action movie where it blows up a building. And yeah, it was really frustrating. I don't know. Am I allowed to spoil 70-year-old science fiction story?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can. All right. So in the original I Am Legend, it's about this, just like Will Smith in the movie. He's a guy, he wakes up every day, and he is essentially the last man alive foraging for stuff. In the book, he's not a scientist of any kind. He was like a plumber or something, and he's just had to figure things out over time. But the world has been overrun by vampires rather than zombies. And every night they come out and try to attack him and try to get him, and they like taunt him from outside and things like that. And every day he walks around trying to find nests and exterminating them, as well as finding food and ways to survive. At the end of the book, he is captured and brought into essentially he's captured, and he's like trying to figure out what's going to happen next, and he starts to get a look at this vampire civilization that's become created. And what he realizes is that his world is over, and he has become the boogeyman for the vampires. He's the thing that stalks them in the night. The regular world now is the world of vampires. He has become their legend. Yeah, he has become their legend that they tell their kids about. Don't, be good, or this guy's going to come and find you while you sleep. And he just accepts
long enough
to
see yourself become the villain.
Pretty much. So he resigns himself that he's about to be brought out into public square and, executed. And I really like that ending. And again, the Will Smith movie, they turn it into zombies, first of all, but they also give these little indications that like these creatures, despite seeming like mindless zombies, they're setting traps, they're doing things that are smart. And then they have them run into a building and blow them up with a grenade, which is freaking ridiculous. The original ending is they've been taking these, they've been capturing members of these zombies, and they were taking them in and sort of experimenting on them and trying to find a cure. And the horde arrives, and they're beating down the windows and the doors, and suddenly everything kind of clicks in Will Smith's brain, and he realizes that they're trying to get their people back because they've been capturing their people and experimenting on them.
Okay.
So they, in the original ending, they give up, and they let them in, and they take their people, and they are allowed to leave. And they just drive off into the sunset, hoping to find a civilization that's still human. And the studio said, no, that ending's ridiculous. People aren't going to like it. It needs more action. So they, yeah.
That's such an interesting ending, too. I like that way better.
I know. And that's when I got to the end of this book. It really is. You realize what a tiny quest the people in this book are on. They're just trying to get across England to the town of Beacon so they can find some other people. They're not, they are trying to solve the problem, and they're trying to stay alive and whatever, but it's such a futile little thing that they're attempting because the whole world is just fucked.
Yeah, sorry, continue.
No, I like that you don't get a lot of acknowledgement of that because nobody wants to think that way until this very end bit. And I've read things where people said they felt like the ending of the book was rushed. And I guess I see that, but I don't know. I think it's important to put everything in a larger context. And the larger context is this is everywhere. And you just have to deal.
I'm not really, rushed surprises me because things happen quickly, but I don't feel like rushed is the same thing. I don't know, but yeah, I like because what you're talking about in I Am Legend is that, they clearly realize, they're acting like people and doing people things, and they reassess based on that. And Caldwell apparently does not have the capacity to do that because at one point, she's being faced by a group of hungry children that are trying to get at her, and they're acting in accordance with one another using hand signals and tactics and are grouping like they're a family hunting together. And yet she still is like, he thinks of himself as if he's a person about the little boy.
Yeah.
Lady.
Then she goes and cuts his head off anyway.
Yeah, how do you just not see all of this evidence and treat it as anything that means anything. The fact that she brings it up later to Melanie, like, well, see, they still remembered some things and were pushing prams, but then it's different with you all. And it's like, you just told us what you could have clearly figured out just by talking to these kids. Like, that this doesn't have the same effect on them. It shouldn't have taken
conceptualize.
I guess.
Yeah. She can't conceptualize a world where her opinion and her thoughts are obsolete. And that's the world that's come about. Speaking of the pushing the pram and the photographs and whatever, what were your thoughts on that? Because we see, obviously, this world. Actually, let me back up even further. Okay. So we see the bunker at the beginning, the classroom, the whole thing. We learn about this weird little world down there. And then everything goes to hell, and there's the attack by the Junkers. And this is the one part of the book that I don't really like, because I feel like the Junkers, the convenience of their attack when all of our other characters are gathered in this place where they're trying, Caldwell wants to cut up Melanie and Justino is making a moral stand. And then suddenly the Junkers burst in, they destroy everything, and we basically don't see them ever again. We just hear about them here and there.
That was the one thing that I really expected to have happen, and I was surprised that they're able to, like, make the noise that they are. They send up a flare at one point. They, like, burn his body. They're driving Rosie around and literally taking, like, pubs out when Caldwell starts driving crazy. And yet that doesn't attract any attention. And I was like, I was just waiting for them to just pop up out of nowhere.
And they sort of act like a boogeyman throughout that's keeping them moving and keeping them afraid that they might get found out and things like that. But I think it's good to acknowledge that it's not just either you're in this military compound or the world's dead. Like, there are people out there. Right. But at the same time, again, it's the one part of the book that I don't like. It just feels convenient.
Yeah.
And actually in the movie, I don't believe they exist. I didn't get a chance to rewatch the movie before this, but I don't believe they're in the movie.
What happens to get them to leave the compound? Is it just an attack overall from...
I think it's just a freak zombie attack, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just like... Because there's an element of it that I like. They reminded me of the Reavers in... oh my god.
Serenity?
Yeah, Firefly. In that, the rumors are it's better to just not be taken alive. Like, the things that they will do to you are so... And I was afraid that we were going to be focusing more on that, which is so overdone. Like, ooh, what happens to humanity? Are we turning into the monsters ourselves? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, they did also, they had shades to me of the way they talk about them in the Walking Dead comic. The show hasn't gotten there yet, and I don't know if they will before it ends. But we find it out much, much later, there are people who survive by wearing zombie skins. I sort of got a feel of that when they're talking about the Junker Society and sort of how they operate.
Yeah, I could see that. It's just like, I'm so, on the one hand, I think they should have come up again because I agree with you that just having them be the catalyst for the story to start and then never coming up again, it feels really pointless in some ways. But on the other hand, I didn't want to see them again, not just because I was like afraid for the characters, but because they are every other zombie book. Like they are. True. It's just like it always winds up coming down to people like this, and it's boring to me. Like, yeah, human nature's terrible, only the strong survive, whatever. God, who cares? Like. And so in that respect, I'm kind of grateful that they didn't come up again. So I'm sort of ambivalent, I guess.
You make a good point. I didn't really put it in that context, but you're right. That's something that if you've read any amount or watched any amount of zombie fiction, you've seen it before. So let's maybe not waste time on it here.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. But yeah, so they escape the base there. And when they start to traverse the society, they, of course, you learn about the infected and the Hungries and how they're either sitting stock still or running at you full speed, which I kind of like.
That I love running zombies. Yo,
mm-hmm.
that right there, when I found out that was how they worked, I was like, oh shit, sign me up. Also, the fact that a headshot does not take them down, because that's not how this fucking fungus works. It's still, their bodies are still like moving around even when their heads are gone. So
right.
They are much more threatening than other zombies I've seen in other things, because they can run and they don't get taken out with a headshot. That's really scary. Like, that makes... There are plenty of reasons why I could understand why the zombies, like, basically take over. But there are definitely parts of me that are just like, yeah, but come on. You know, like, they shuffle along at 3 miles an hour, and you just get rid of their friggin' head. Get there, just take it off. Go get your fucking, like, machine gun set at around, 5'5", 6 foot level, and just put a sheet of machine gun fire out into a crowd, and you'll be hitting heads more often than not, and then you're golden in these crowds. But this makes me go, yeah, they would win. Like,
yeah,
that's just it, like, there's no question.
Yeah, I really like their portrayal, and that's one thing the movie does, I think, really well, is when you see the children start to turn, like in the beginning when they rub when Parks rubs the E-blocker off of his forearm.
Yeah,
and the kid, and when Melanie starts to react to things, they do this thing where you sort of see like their jaw unhinge under the skin.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I imagined, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And then they sort of, in my head, I'm sure it doesn't really look like this, but in my head, I remember them looking like Pac-Man faces, where their jaws just go like, ah, 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 ah. and it just, they do a really good job of making them look really, really disturbing and really unnatural very quickly.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's basic. That's so funny, because I didn't really realize that's what I was picturing, but their jaw coming unhinged is like kind of what was happening in my mind's eye. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I did, by the way, I looked, it is streaming on Amazon Prime. So,
nice. Okay.
Yep. So we see those zombies and we get used to them after a while, and then we run across the one lady who is pushing the baby carriage.
Mm-hmm.
And then later we run across the guy who's singing and looking at family photos. And, what did you think about that? Because it creeped me the hell out.
It is creepy. Yeah. I mean, there's like, a monster is bad enough, but a monster that like kind of reminds you that it used to be a person is even worse. Like, nobody wants to remember that when they're about to try and take you out. And
did it lead you at all towards what the eventual conclusion of it was, like, and learning what Melanie and her, the other kids actually are?
To be perfectly honest,
I was mystified. I was mystified the whole time. So,
to be honest, I assumed from first chapter that Melanie was the result of infected people that had had sex, but it didn't occur to me that like the Hungries could keep having sex. I figured it was people who were infected but not yet turned, because it wasn't clear then how fast the turn, like when we're with Parks later, it happens pretty quick. But in the beginnings of the book, we haven't ever seen it. We aren't even really positive that that's like what Melanie is. But that's what I assumed, was like they are the result of people who are infected having babies, and like there's just been an evolution that happens.
And they do say earlier in the book that it doesn't always take the same amount of time. Sometimes it was very quickly, and sometimes it took a while.
Okay, that's right. I forgot that they mentioned that, because it's like their constitution. It depends on,
right. And by the time we meet Parks, he starts changing. That they've already burned that giant. Like, in my head, it looks like a Jell-O mold, kind of. Like, it's just this giant wall of wobbly gray stuff, and that's already everywhere, so it would make sense that he's turning very, very, very fast.
So it's a Jell-O? Because it's like supposed to be dry.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually a Jell-O. I think it's probably more like a dandelion, like a dead dandelion, where it's all just turned white.
Yeah, okay.
I guess dead. I don't know, whatever that part of the dandelion is. I think it's really probably something more like that, but when I try to picture something that large, I don't know. I go to Jello mold. I guess maybe because they describe it as a wall, but it's kind of like a porous wall. So...
Yeah, I was picturing like basically when you leave something in the fridge for too long, and there's that like mold that grows that's like crisscrossing and hairy.
That's probably way more accurate.
Like it's little soft, like it's fuzzy looking. Like if it, you know, if an animal had fur like that, you'd be like, ooh, that he looks so soft. I want to pet him. But it's disgusting mold, so no.
Right.
But yeah, I guess so. The idea that they just continued to like copulate to me almost seems like more far-fetched than mine, which was just that, you know, people are infected and just continuing to have sex sometimes. And then I thought maybe it's sort of like in Walking Dead where everybody's infected and there's some people who are just not like, it's not until you die that it really kicks in and turns you into a zombie, like if you're able to avoid death in another way. And I thought, okay, maybe everybody in this world's infected, but you know, some people have managed to, like, they have an antibody and it's just the minority of people and they're the ones that are giving birth to these kids, you know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah. And it is kind of far-fetched to picture, and I was talking about this with Amanda after, because I reread the very end of this book even after I just before we recorded to remind myself. And I don't think that they say that in the movie. I think in the movie they rely on your mom was, you know, zombified when you were born and you may be eating your way out of her and whatever. I think that they actually don't go as far to say that, the zombies are copulating. I think that they rely on infected mommy.
Okay. I think that just... The idea of fucking zombies is just too silly. Like it's fine if that's what it is, but like I'm not really going with that, to be honest.
I agree, but at the same time, if you want to establish that this is actually a new evolution of life on this planet, then you have to establish that they can procreate.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess I figured, enough people, if it was a slow-moving infection, were able to give birth while they were infected, that those kids that were born with the fungus already in their bodies, they would continue to procreate.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you don't really need the zombies to be doing it if you already have a whole new generation of kids that have this, like, infection already. Although it does make you wonder then what's going to be left for them to eat. Because
I thought about that too.
Yeah.
But they also, we also learn how little they can subsist on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If we get past this initial stage of infection where they are just screaming mindless zombies and they're actual thinking, planning people, then if you have somebody like Melanie who has enough knowledge of who saw this grub thing, then she becomes leader of this tribe, and they get to be talking and get to be a civilization, and she can kind of direct them. Okay, now we are going to start digging in the earth and finding worms and grubs, and let's all control ourselves, and let's throw them all in a wheelbarrow, and let's start canning them or something,
or start doing some factory farming. That's what we do, and we like meat, so.
There we go. That's a much better solution than canning. Yes. So I think that that's also important, because I thought about that too. I'm just like, what happens now that there are no more people? You wind up in like a Daybreak situation where they're keeping people in like blood banks and things. But I think that's why that's important. It's not just a gross thing. It's an important part of their biology.
Yeah. And the scene where, Justino and Parks are in the loft and the kids come in and they start taking zombies out. It's just such a weird thing, because like they're going to be helping clear the world of the pointless hungries now. Do you know what I mean? Because they're basically just taking up space, like, which is sort of, I almost feel bad. Like the hungries, I just feel like they're just so, they feel like a stumbling block for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's...
I guess they're the ones that started off this whole transformation, so they had their use. It's just once they fulfilled that, then they're in the new generation's way just as much as they were in the previous ones.
Yeah, they're the Cro-Magnon.
Yeah, right.
You know, the Cro-Magnon evolution that we just got to get past them now. All right, that was good enough to get us from monkey to person, and now you can all go away.
From Monkey to Person by Alan Kingsley.
Oh, see, I was going to go from monkey to person, the Alan Kingsley story, but okay.
I like it.
Got it in my autobiography, something.
You nerd.
So I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else there is. I just love Melanie too as a character. She's so adorable.
I do too. Yeah, I think that's it. The plot is, like I said, it is kind of bare bones plot. They go over a lot, but there's not like tons of plot points to hit in this book where there's, you know, meaningful scenes of dialogue and whatever. It really is, for me, it's all about the characters and, you know, just sort of the world that they created.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoy that she is like that they managed to strike that balance between her being a super genius and also being a child, because that's a really tricky thing to have in a story and not be super obnoxious. Like usually it's super obnoxious, let's be honest. And she's just so engaging, and I think it's because she's so interested in everything, you know, like she's always and she reminded me a lot of myself, just with her eagerness for stories and her like fascination with things and wanting to hear them over and over again.
Okay.
And the way that there's at one point where she's talking about how there were these two boys who were always competing against each other for test scores, but they were only like the third and fourth best in the class. So the fact that they competed seemed kind of stupid to her, because they were never going to beat her and her other friend, who I think was named like Xenia or something with like an X or a Z. I enjoyed her disdain on that front. And when she finally leaves and she's just able to control that she wants to eat everybody, I kind of wondered if that wasn't going to be part of it. If there was going to be like, oh, she's learned to tamp down this like brutal part of her nature, and she's going to get in with these kids and teach them to control themselves also. But that's not like, I thought of that, but my brain couldn't take it any further than that, because I was like, that's just not a sustainable way to live. Like, what are they going to do? Not eat? And the way that it ended is much better. You know, they could have kind of done that, I guess, but it wouldn't really have felt like it was a long-term solution. And I didn't believe that she'd be able to keep kids who had lived like that forever from doing that anyway. Like, how are you going to, if there's a bunch of food and you're starving and somebody's telling you, no, 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 you just shove them aside and you get your goddamn food, you know? So it would have been hard for me to like believe in anyway.
What do you think of her ultimate decision? Because she does, you know, eventually just decide that, okay, you know what? This world has got to end, except for you, because I like you, so I'm going to keep you in a trailer for forever.
Right.
I do wonder what Miss Justino's going to eat, but, well, whatever.
I was just thinking about that the whole time. I was just like, what? She's going to be in a trailer forever because she has this airlock. And then I guess they'll have to airlock all of the food that they bring her, that they collect and scavenge. So that,
it'll have to go through decontamination and whatnot.
Yeah. Which is really rough, but at the same time, it seems like it's only a little worse than how she was being forced to live before.
It's a very good point.
You know, so like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of messed up that Melanie just takes it upon herself to do this, but at the same time, Melanie is the one that, like, she's the one that's been fucked with. So I think she's earned the right to make the choice for everybody. Like, they've been poking and prodding her and making choices for her forever. And now she's the one that has all of the information. So it seems fair that she's the one that, you know, if she doesn't consult just to know first, And like I said, I really think that Parks would only have been the one that was like okay with it. But just to know, I feel like she wouldn't have been okay with it, but she would have understood.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. Yeah, I don't think that she'd be okay with it, but I think she empathizes enough with them. And I was thinking about this when I was just rereading it before we recorded, and Melanie's conversation with Dr. Caldwell, where, Justino's always seen Melanie as a person, like, with worth.
Mm-hmm.
And when at the end of the book, Caldwell can finally say to Melanie, like, I used to think you were this way, but I don't believe that anymore. Now I do see that you're
right.
You are an individual. That's the validation that Melanie needs, I guess, to be able to choose herself over this old world that was falling apart anyway.
Yeah,
because no one else is going to choose it for her.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So,
and I think it's also almost like a kindness for Melanie to just go ahead and do it, and then afterwards be like, "Hey, so the world's ending. I decided to end it." Because if she had tried to, like, ask Justino, like, well, will you help me with this? Then Justino would have to carry that. Yeah. So she's gone ahead and done it and absolved her of any kind of responsibility for this. And it's, what needs to happen. And Justino will probably, like, come to terms with it and understand, but she doesn't have to feel like she's at all responsible for it, which I think is a nice thing to do. Have the one person who helped you with this be the guy that gets shot in the head in the end. Spoilers.
Yeah. I think we're past that point.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I do, because on one hand, it really is like, this is Melanie's sort of supervillain turn, where she's become a full-fledged part of the team and she's understood herself and her place in the world and whatever. And so the reaction is to, all right, we just got to burn it all down now and start over.
Yep.
It's a heavy decision for, what is she, 12? Maybe?
I think, yeah. I don't remember, to be honest, what age they said she was.
I don't know if they say. I mean, she's obviously old enough to be independent and self-sufficient.
I think they did say. But, yeah, I'm not
positive. Did they? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, she's still old enough to look lovingly at her teachers and, and want her mommy. But... But obviously is out of she can take care of herself and she's an independent thinker and all that stuff.
Oh my God, that part where Dr. Caldwell is like, yeah, you probably ate your way out of your mother. I was like, for fuck's sake, Caldwell. I appreciate that, as much as Melanie is trying to just listen and be basically impartial, she's still like, hey, fucking don't. Like, maybe we don't do it like this, lady. But by then that ship has sailed and she can't stop talking. Dying from infection in your sliced up hands is a pretty fucked up death. That's a bummer.
Yes, it is. It's not anyone's chosen way to go.
Not for her, it's a bummer because she sucks, so fuck her. But I guess you're right that she did provide Melanie with the necessary absolution from, maybe she'll still have some guilt, but in the long term, she'll know that she made the right choice, whereas she might always have wondered before, even if she did go ahead and do this anyway.
I do wonder. I feel like let's advance this story, I don't know, 18 months.
Okay.
Does Justino ever break? Does she, finally snap and say, I cannot believe you destroyed my world, you horrible little girl? Or does she keep that stuff buried because she wouldn't do that to Melanie?
I don't know.
And I wonder if Justino never does that, does Melanie ever realize what a terrible thing she's done to this woman?
I don't know. I'm like, I think because, okay, so they're trying to get to Beacon, right? But it has come up while they are talking that maybe Beacon's not there anymore.
Yeah, they haven't gotten a radio transmission from them in like 6 months.
And I feel like maybe Justino kind of doesn't think it's there anymore. So I think that's kind of at the crux of it. Like, if she really thought there was somewhere that she could have gone to at least live out her own days, then maybe she would be more resentful. But I kind of think that revelation from Parks was like, I think that got to her, and that she kind of really doesn't think there's anything there.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then maybe she'll see the worth of what she's doing now as, like, you know, they say the teachers raise the next generation, and I guess that's fucking true.
That's great.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm sure that it's a combo, right? You go back and forth between what the fuck did you do and but like what was left.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of where, like, I wonder if Justino would. I am sure she will reach that point of just hopelessness or helplessness or just being fed up with being in a trailer. But I don't know how much she would express that to anybody. Not even out of fear of death, but just out of fear of making them live with the guilt of what they did to her.
I think if she does, she'll wait until Melanie is older and more able to have that kind of conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm trying to think, because this book, like, was pretty short. I sat down today and it said that I was only like 70% through it, and I was like, oh shit, I have a bunch of reading to do. And it turns out that it only is like 85% the book. Because I was on
the last
Kindle.
15.
Yeah, and the last 15 is like the interview and then like a promo for another book, which I did not read. So I had thought that there was going to be all this other stuff coming, and then it ended, and I was like, oh, okay. I have more free time than I thought. I'm going to go to Starbucks.
Although you say it's pretty short. It's a 400-page book. I mean, it's not The Stand, but it's,
it goes
it's not Winter's Bone
really
either.
Fast though. Like,
it
I
really
read
does.
this. This might have been one of the quickest reads that I've done so far, other than like Ready Player One, which I basically read in one day.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is, but it just felt like boom, 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 you know? Mm. Also, I bought myself a Kindle, and I will never look back, and I love this thing so much. So, recommended.
Yeah. And actually, since you enjoyed this as much as I did, I just learned this when I picked up the audio for The Girl with All the Gifts for my reread.
Okay.
A sequel to this just came out in May.
Oh, is that The Boy on the Bridge?
Rich. It is a sequel to this.
That's part of the thing of the Kindle. Was I got to the end of the book and they were like, you may also enjoy by this author, The Boy on the Bridge, and I was like, is that a sequel? But I didn't click on it. But okay, interesting.
And the only thing I'm not trying to look into it because this one was so much fun to go into without any expectations. Mm-hmm. But
I'd be interested to just hear what people like, if it got a good response or not. That's the only thing I'd be like wanting to know. But
well, this is the little bit that it has here. It doesn't reveal anything at all. It says, once upon a time in a land plagued by terror, there was a very clever boy. The people thought this boy could save them, so they opened their gates and sent him out into the world to where the monsters lived. That's all it says.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm really, really curious what's up with this. So it looks like the audiobook's available, the hardcover's out there. February is when the paperback shows up, and that's what my copy of The Girl with All the Gifts is, so I would probably wait till the paperback. But I'm real curious.
Oh, and I meant to say, because I was telling Owen just generally when I first started the book about, like, you know, the compound where Melanie is and everything, and he was saying it really reminded him of the oh my God, what's the little girl in Logan?
Oh, Laura Kinney. Yeah.
No, the name of her, like, character.
Yeah, Laura.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. But, like, what do they call? Like, doesn't she wind up getting like a superhero name?
X-23.
Okay, yeah. And he was saying that it reminds him of that. And he was like, it feels like maybe they're kind of stealing. And then at the end, in the Meet the Author, M.R. Carey is a pen name for an established British writer of prose and fiction and comic books. He has written for both DC and Marvel, including critically acclaimed runs on X-Men and the Fantastic Four. So I was like, all right, maybe Owen is correct.
I was actually just thinking when you said that you might not get him to read the book. Yeah, the guy's name is Mike Carey. He wrote the entire run of Lucifer, which is a spinoff from the Sandman. Mm-hmm. He wrote a bunch of Hellblazer. He did a bunch of stuff in, I think, the Fantastic Four and X-Men. He's been all over the comics world for years, and I don't know a lot of his stuff, but I know he's fairly well respected. So
yeah,
that might
got some experience there. So yeah,
exactly.
I found that really interesting, and I'm just like, what a cool life to be involved in so many projects like that. Like, there are some things that I read about, and I'm just like, I mean, good for them, but this does not seem like the life I would want. But this guy, I was reading it, and I was like, God damn, he sounds like he has fun. I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, but I guarantee you that most people out there go like, she watches TV and records podcasts all day. God damn, that sounds like fun. I want that life.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And it is fun. So they're right. Ha
ha. So that's just about everything with the girl. I guess I had one other really minor question that I don't know what to make of this, and I'm curious about your thoughts on it.
Okay.
There are two little details. One, in Miss Justineau, one of the things they describe about her is that she always wears one item of red in her clothing every day.
Oh, yeah.
And then on Dr. Caldwell, they say that she always wears red lipstick, even though it's almost impossible to find. Mm-hmm. She wears it daily. And I don't know if those are just like little character details that don't mean anything, or if it's actually supposed to be indicative of something.
I forgot all about that. I don't know. The one thing that I would think is just like, blood, we're alive, you're not.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Just like a basic, like, drawing a line between, because blood is the color of passion and life, you know? Right.
Sure.
So, but it's hard to feel like that's what's going on with Dr. Caldwell.
Right. I wonder if it's almost, I'd almost say it's like a status symbol, but red lipstick isn't usually indicative of a high status at all. Yeah. So, or maybe it could be indicative of her insistence on being a professional and trying to elevate herself, but she can't because nobody cares. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, they were details I noticed, and when I looked at the Wikipedia page mentions them but doesn't say anything about them. Mm-hmm. Also, so yeah, I don't know. I've just been chewing it over, and I got nothing.
Yeah, that's I remember kind of like zeroing in on that a little as I was reading, naturally, because I'm always into like the costume choices in television shows and stuff. But I totally forgot about it by the end of it. So yeah, I guess like
I mean, they could both be indicative of life, and there's kind of a tug of war between Caldwell, who is looking at the life that everybody had and wanting to get back to that, and Justineau is concerned with the life that these children are showing on their own.
Yeah, and like the different ways in which they use it. Like Justineau is choosing one red accessory, and that's a flexible thing, and it's something that she chooses for beauty. But Caldwell is choosing the same thing in red every day, which shows this inflexibility and a kind of attempt to be superior in a lot of ways, because she already thinks she is. But yeah, like there comes a point with stuff like that where I'm like, I'm making that up. I feel like an English teacher in 6th grade where I'm just like, well, this bicycle pump in this scene is really about his latent sexuality. And I'm like,
yeah, that's kind of where I am with it too. Like, I want to ascribe it meaning of some kind because I feel like it was very specifically pointed out in both cases.
Right.
But I just don't know.
I definitely think it's got meaning if it was pointed out that way. I just feel like when I start to go down that road of like, well, hers is this and this, then I'm like, am I completely overdoing it? Maybe it was just supposed to be like, these are the living and they are not.
But, they also say that if you're trying, the symbols that you try to put into your book are never the most interesting ones. It's much better to finish your book, look back, and then see what symbols pop up.
Yeah, I guess that's probably true.
I think that we're allowed to impose our own meaning on things.
It can be super weird too, like, because I've gone back and looked at things that I've read and been like, oh, and like I did something that it seems like I was being really clever and I completely didn't intend it. Like, it was not me being clever, it was me being a dum-dum and not seeing what was right there.
Right.
So I doubt that that's what happened here, because he's a really experienced writer, so I'm sure that kind of thing is on purpose. But yeah, that's a good question. What's the other one?
Oh no, that was it. Those were the two things: the lipstick and the
gotcha,
and the item of red. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, it was just something that I've been trying to figure out. Like, I wanted to have some idea of what to say about it, other than like they pointed out what's up with that. I got nothing.
And it's not like Parks has that, right? He doesn't have any red.
No, not that. I mean, his big identifying feature is the scar on his face that has his face kind of like split in half.
Yeah.
And the asymmetric nature. Which, again, I guess that also makes sense of him being a part of both of those worlds as time goes on, or his ability to not be solidly in one camp or the other.
What if he knocked up Justino?
That occurred to me.
That would be a
that
bummer.
occurred to me, too.
Is that the little boy that they released? Is that the boy on the bridge?
Oh, shit. Although, I gotta wonder, is the I guess the baby would be safe as long as it's in the trailer, but, yeah.
Right?
Man.
I mean...
other than it indulges that trope that I absolutely hate of having magic sex that makes a baby the one time only, and suddenly you made John Connor. I hate that trope. Hate it. But that would be kind of awesome.
Yeah, I wonder about, because like if the Rosie is portable, so they could, there's nothing saying that she has to just stay in that one spot with that trailer forever.
That's true. Actually, I am curious. How old do you see Justino as being?
I was figuring like late 30s, like 38.
I was wondering that myself, because she is. The world's been gone for at least 20 years, right?
It seems that way.
So
things have rotted away to absolute dust. So
yeah, and Gallagher refers to her as an older woman. And I mean, he is, in my mind, 17 or 18, maybe 20, but maybe not much more. So I feel like she's, she's plus 20 years from whenever all this stuff went down. So I was sort of seeing her more like in her mid-40s. That's why I thought Gemma Atherton, as much as I like the actress, she seemed young for the role.
Shocker. I'm shocked. Shocked, I say.
But yeah, in my mind, she was sort of in middle age. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it too much, but you're right. They do specifically mention like an older woman, but I don't remember about Park's age. Do they give any clues on that?
I don't think so, other than he was a soldier prior to when all this happened, so he had to be old enough to join the service.
So he's got to be late 40s.
I would imagine that's probably it. Yeah, he's got to be at least 18 or 20 when the world goes to hell, and then it's been 20.
Okay, so early 40s, mid 40s probably, more likely. So, okay, that puts him a little older than I was imagining him, so it's possible they're both just older than I thought. But his, when I picture him, the person that I kept picturing was the dude from Battlestar Galactica who's dating the Asian girl. Oh, what is his name? And he's in he's Echo's handler in
Temo Pennicott.
Is that his name? I think you're right, because I remember I looked it up once and I was like, "What is that name?" So that seems right.
That's funny. See, when I was picturing him, and I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't get the image out of my head. I was picturing Thunderbolt Ross from The Incredible Hulk.
Oh my god!
He's the and I don't know why that was the image I had in my head. No, actually, I'm sorry. It wasn't him. It was not him. It was. Did you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yes. Well, the first season, and then I stopped.
All right. Yeah, it was after the first season. He was Nathan Petrelli in Heroes. He was the brother of the main character in Heroes, and he is in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a general.
Oh, this dude. Okay, he's too much of a pretty boy, like, for me to think of him as. But I see what you mean, because he's got that real, like, square look.
Yeah, and I could not picture it, and I knew that wasn't exactly right, but I couldn't get that particular look out of my head with him with the buzz cut and the mustache. And yeah, I don't know. Again, the guy they picked in the movie looks nothing like I ever would have pictured the character. He's good, but
is he
not
he's
at all
not somebody that I would know, the actor?
I don't think so. His name is not in front of me.
Even if you told me his name, I guarantee you I wouldn't know who you meant, because I'm bad with actor names. Oh my god,
it's not it's not an easy name. It's not like, oh yeah, it was Brian. It was his name is weird. The girl with I can't spell. This is fascinating audio.
All right, we're compelling.
Yeah, and now I'm writing the grill with all the gifts. That's not it.
They know. They know you. You're getting a lot of images of people being really excited at their new birthday present. It's a brand spanking new grill.
His name is Patty Considine.
Okay. I'm looking it up. Patty Considine. That is not a name that you remember. Like,
no, that's what I mean.
This guy. What?
You know him?
Yeah. What are you talking about? This is the guy from Hot Fuzz. You've got a mustache. I know. Oh my god, that is him. Yeah. He's hilarious. He acts as a soldier. He's like in a serious role. That is surprising. Okay.
Yes, son of a bitch. Look at that. Yeah, that's him. So yeah, he's Parks.
Wow, that was unexpected. But, I mean, I'm thinking of American actors here, and this is set in fucking England, so hello, Natasha. But, all right, wow, all right, yeah, I'd be interested in watching that even more now, because I like him.
Yeah, so definitely check it out. They made some changes, but it's they did a good job. So because I think you can't get into people's heads quite so much, it loses something, and because you can't let the story unfold on you the way that it can in the book, it loses something. But all things considered, I like it. I know that Carey wrote the novel and the screenplay at the same time. So
wow, okay,
very much had this in mind. Yeah, he wrote them both simultaneously. So he was way involved in both of them, and he had a hand in both of them, and he very specifically cut stuff out because it wasn't going to work in a movie.
That's some. I was reading today about just, how every medium has its particular thing that it's really good at. And I just feel like I know that movies aren't good at being inside people's heads. I know that that's the advantage of a book. But I feel like it's like on the tip of our fingers. Like we could almost do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I do. I think adaptation does a really good job of it.
I haven't seen that movie in ages. I really liked it when I saw it, but I don't remember it very well.
Check it out again, especially as you are now actively, writing things. Mm-hmm. Watch it again with your writing experience under your belt, and I just found it to be like the best portrayal of writer's block that I've ever seen on screen.
I just the one thing I remember is just like, well, why can't we just write about ordinary people doing their fucking, who wants to read that? I don't read that. I don't want to read your fucking book. And I was like, oh yeah. Because I always think that too, just like, why does it always have to be this big thing? Because who cares otherwise? Yeah. Yep.
So, all right, well, we're way off in the weeds on the girl with all the gifts at this point.
All right. Well, thank you, sir, so much for joining me on this.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for picking this book. Thank you, fans, for picking this book.
Yeah, because, you guys get
it's a great one.
Credit on this one. And for the next book, for September, we will be reading Rebecca, which is an older book.
It is.
And it is going to lead us into the spooktacular holiday season for Halloween. And I'm really excited about that. It's, what is her name that wrote it? Du Maurier?
Daphne du Maurier, yeah.
And then the book after that for October is Bag of Bones. And Bag of Bones, I'm going to be recording with the gentleman from Overdue. And I'm stoked about it. So,
outstanding.
I'm really, really excited.
I think you're going to like Bag of Bones a lot.
Bag of Bones got recommended to me by Mariana Herrera, who was for a while my like top contributing patron who got us to do Sherlock. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Can I do anything? And she was like, well, I really would love it if you do this book. And when I looked into it, I was like, yeah, this sounds like it's probably my jam. And it sounds like something that I want to do around Halloween. So thank you, Mariana, for suggesting that. And I'm also stoked that I'm going to be doing it with Overdue guys because their show is my fave. They're currently my like comfort listening podcast because they're just so delightful. So, so yeah. And then November is The Haunting of Hill House, which, you know, I had been going to record that on Halloween, but since I'm not doing them live anymore, I probably won't. I might do something else live on Halloween. I don't know what's going to happen. And then December is Howl's Moving Castle. So, nice. Yeah, that should be fun. I know a little bit more about that book than I normally do going into things just because it's like, you know, in pop culture and stuff. But
yeah, I don't know that one. I know the movie's out and it's popular, but I don't know the story or anything. The Haunting of Hill House is a fun sort of gothic horror thing. I haven't read it in 20 years probably, but I really enjoyed it.
That one was like, I think Stephen King said that it was like one of the most terrifying haunted house books he'd ever read.
Yeah.
Which
I don't know if I go that far, but it was.
Yeah, I've seen Stephen King say like very hyperbolic things about a variety of books that I've wound up being kind of like, oh, I mean, I guess once I've read it. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed our assessment of this book, which was super fun, and I would recommend it to everybody. Oh, also, I think it was Erica White who shared on the Unspoiled Book Club group, which you guys should check out. It's facebook.com/group/Unspoiled Book Club. When the book was on sale for Kindle for like $2. So thank you, Erica, for doing that, because I had just got my new Kindle, and it was just delightful to be able to just pay $2 for this book when I normally have to pay like $10 for my monthly book. So thank you for that. Always appreciated deal. And yeah. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave some reviews on iTunes if you have been enjoying the show. And we will see you next month with Rebecca. Dun dun dun. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, everyone.
Unspoiled Network podcast.